I'm Rachel Miller, 39, an ordinary high school teacher in Denver, Colorado. If someone asked about me, they'd likely picture a balanced woman teaching literature to students while raising my 17-year-old daughter. But some wounds, some family secrets, aren't easily summed up in a few lines. And that Christmas, I witnessed a moment that completely shattered my heart. My daughter was rejected by the very people who call themselves her grandparents. It all started innocently enough. On Christmas morning, snow fell lightly, blanketing the street in front of our house. I was buried in a pile of end-of-term essays, thinking I'd make up for a colleague's recent family tragedy by taking on extra grading. Sophie, my daughter, didn't complain. She busied herself, carefully wrapping gifts and baking an apple pie from her grandmother's recipe, its aroma filling the house. I can still see her face as she arranged little gift boxes in a wicker basket, her eyes sparkling with simple faith. "This year everyone will be happy, right, Mom?" I nodded, though a vague unease lingered in my chest. 17 years of motherhood had made me familiar with Sophie's disappointed looks when family occasions left her overlooked. But this time, she was more excited than usual, perhaps because she'd just received full scholarships from 3 universities. She wanted to share that joy with her grandparents and my sister Emily. Late that afternoon, as I sat among stacks of ink-smudged papers, my phone buzzed. Sophie's name lit up the screen. I remember the chill that ran down my spine. She rarely interrupted my work unless something was truly wrong. I picked up, hearing only her choked sobs. "Mom, what did I do wrong?" Her crying tore through the quiet room. Outside, wind whipped snowflakes against the windows, but all I could hear was my heart pounding. "What happened, honey?" I asked, my voice trembling. Through tears, Sophie recounted. She'd just set the apple pie on the table when my mother, her grandmother, walked out, looked her in the eye, and said words I'll never forget. "You're not my granddaughter. Get out." 7 short words, but to a 17-year-old, they were a knife to the heart. She said the room was still filled with Emily's laughter and her son's chatter, yet no one spoke up for her. My father silently took the gift plate from Sophie's hands and set it aside, as if it meant nothing. My daughter turned and ran, clutching her pie, with no one bothering to stop her. In the thick snow, she drove home crying, calling me in a panic. I couldn't sit still a second longer. I slammed my laptop shut, grabbed my coat and keys, and sped through Denver's crowded streets. Christmas lights twinkled along the boulevard. People laughed hand in hand, but my heart was a storm of rage and chaos. When I burst into our small apartment, the sight broke me. Sophie was curled up on the sofa, her red wool dress soaked with tears. Her eyes were red, her hands trembling as she clutched the cracked pie. The neatly wrapped gifts sat untouched beside her. I knelt down, wrapping her in my arms, feeling her body shake. "It's not your fault, Sophie, never your fault," she whispered through sobs. "But why, Mom? Why am I always left out? I just wanted to make them happy." I bit my lip to hold back tears. In that moment, something inside me shattered, but a steel resolve formed too. This was the final straw. I sat beside her, one hand stroking her damp hair, the other gripping my phone. I wasn't afraid anymore. All the years of endurance, from pregnancy to raising her alone, turned into a calm, unyielding strength. I texted my lawyer friend, "Help me, it's time." Outside, the wind howled, lashing snow against the dark. I knew that after this Christmas our lives would turn a new page. Looking at Sophie, her eyes still brimming with despair, a fire ignited in me, a fire of protection, of determination. No one, not even my parents, would ever demean her again. That night, as clocks struck midnight and people toasted to joy, I made a silent vow in our little apartment. I'd do everything to show Sophie she was worthy of love. No one's approval required. I know many of you might see yourselves in this story. Maybe you were once a Sophie, dismissed by your own family, or a Rachel, holding your child while swallowing tears. If you felt that rejection, you know how deep it cuts. So put yourself in my shoes that Christmas night. What would you do when your child comes home asking, "What did I do wrong?" Would you keep enduring or stand up and change everything? Share your thoughts. Sometimes another's empathy becomes the warmth we need to keep going. They say, family is where every story begins. For me, family was where pain took root. If that Christmas was the fatal blow, the past 20 years were the slow sharpening of the knife. I grew up in Denver, in a two-story house with a wide porch and a wooden swing under an old oak. To neighbors, we were perfect. My dad, a chief accountant at a construction firm, my mom, a skilled homemaker, and my sister Emily and I, dubbed the Twin Angels. But inside that house, an invisible line divided love. Emily in the light, me forever in the shadow. From childhood, Emily was the pride. She excelled in school, starred in soccer, and had a smile that made our parents beam. When she won awards, Mom baked cookies, and we celebrated as a family. When I brought home a painting chosen for the school gallery, Mom glanced at it and said, "Nice, honey. Don't forget to clean your room." I smiled, telling myself I didn't need fanfare, just a flicker of recognition. But it rarely came. In high school, the divide grew stark. Emily got a car to drive to school. I had a rusty bike. Evenings, our parents listened to Emily's soccer stories while I studied alone under a dim lamp. I became the shadow, so used to it I thought it was normal. Then in college, everything changed in a way I never expected. I met a guy at a student dance, charming smile, sweet promises. Things moved fast, too fast. And one winter morning, I stood trembling with a pregnancy test showing 2 red lines. When I told him, he vanished without a word. I still remember coming home, in our cozy coffee-scented kitchen, mustering the courage to tell my parents, "I'm keeping the baby." Dad slammed his fist, shattering a coffee mug. "You're ruining your future. Get rid of it or give it up for adoption," he growled. Mom cried, not for me, but for fear of what the neighbors would say, for the family's shame. Emily leaned against the door, smirking. "I knew you'd do something stupid. You just proved it." I sat silently, hands on my flat belly, where a tiny life was forming. Fear threatened to tear me apart, but a clear voice in my head said, "No, this is my child. I'll keep it." I said it aloud, and in that moment, my family cut me off. Dad declared he'd stop paying tuition, that there was no home for me. Mom turned away, wiping tears, her shoulders shaking but resolute. Emily shot me a triumphant look. "Let's see how long you last." So I left. One old suitcase, a few clothes, some savings. I rented a tiny room near campus, worked at a coffee shop, and struggled through classes. My body grew heavier, but I never regretted it. The day Sophie was born, July heat was unbearable. The hospital buzzed with antiseptic smells and newborn cries. I was in agony, but when I heard Sophie's first wail, I knew my reason to live. I looked to the door, hoping for a familiar hand to hold mine. But no one came. No flowers, no grandparents. Just me and Sophie, 2 outcasts clinging together in a cold, white room. From then on, holidays were simple meals. Sophie's first birthday, I bought a small cake, lit a single candle. She giggled, unaware of absence. But my heart ached, picturing my parents' living room, where Emily's son likely got piles of gifts. Year after year, history repeated. Christmas, Thanksgiving, Independence Day. Family gatherings left no place for Sophie. I tried bringing her, hoping for a seat at the long table. But we were relegated to side chairs or forgotten in corners. Emily never missed a chance to remind me I was the failure. Once, when Sophie was 5, she looked at the candlelit table and whispered, "Mom, why don't I get to sit with Grandma and Grandpa?" I choked, only able to hug her. How could I explain to a child that love in this house was measured by bias? 17 years, I carried not just motherhood, but the scars of family rejection. I learned to be strong, but deep down, I craved one acknowledgement from my parents. That's why I kept trying to reconnect Sophie with them, hoping things could change. But as you saw this Christmas, it led to a bigger tragedy. If you asked which hurt more, being disowned when pregnant or watching my daughter rejected by her grandparents, I couldn't choose. Both were knife wounds, never fully healing. But those wounds shaped who I am today, a mother who knows only she can protect her daughter, no one else. Now I ask you, what would you do in my place? Cling to a hollow family tie or stand up for your and your child's dignity? If this story grips you, comment why. If not, be honest, comment N. I want to know where your heart lies. They say one event can change a life. For me, it was that snowy, tear-filled Christmas night. Holding my sobbing daughter, hearing her pain, I knew this wasn't the first time, nor the last. My family had shown their love was conditional, and those conditions never included Sophie or me. In our small apartment, the Christmas lights on the window cast a dim glow. Sophie slept on the sofa, her lashes still wet. I watched her, torn between love and rage, love for her innocence, rage for letting her hope and hurt repeatedly. I asked myself, if I keep enduring, what will Sophie be in 10, 20 years? Will she believe she's worthy of love? That question hit like a hammer. I could no longer stay silent. That night, I opened my laptop. In its blue glow, an old email appeared. An offer from Austin, Texas, for a principal position in a creative writing program. I'd hesitated, worried about uprooting Sophie in her final high school year. But now, rereading it, I saw a door opening, bright against the stifling dark. I took a deep breath, whispering, "It's time." The next morning, I made a simple breakfast, scrambled eggs and hot cocoa. Sophie sat, still weary. I hesitated, then touched her hand. "Honey, I think we need a fresh start." She looked up, wary. "What do you mean?" I showed her the email. Austin Independent School District, Creative Writing Program Principal Offer. I was offered a principal job in Austin. I hesitated because I didn't want to disrupt your life, but after last night, I realized you deserve a place where you're not sidelined, not belittled, not treated as an outsider. Sophie was silent for a long time. I heard the spoon tap her mug, my heart pounding. Then she gave a small, firm smile. "I think so too, Mom. We deserve a fresh start." In that moment, my shoulders felt lighter. For the first time in years, my daughter and I shared a resolve. That afternoon, we sat in the living room, pen and paper in hand, drafting a long email to my family. I wrote, each word unburdening years of repression. For 17 years, we've accepted being ignored, diminished, compared. Sophie grew up in coldness, though she always tried to be seen. This Christmas, you looked her in the eye and said, "You're not my granddaughter. Get out." Those words didn't just offend, they ended any lingering illusions. I listed every forgotten birthday, every holiday we were sidelined, every blatant favoritism toward Emily and her son. I didn't write in explosive anger, but with the calm of someone letting go. Sophie sat beside me, her eyes steady. She said, "Mom, let me add something." I handed her the pen and she wrote, "I hoped to be loved, waited for a kind word or hug, but now I know. Love can't be begged. From now on, I'll write my own story." Reading it, my eyes blurred. My daughter, who once asked, "What did I do wrong?" was now claiming her voice. We ended the email firmly. From today, we're leaving. No more contact, no more waiting. We'll open the door only if you one day have the courage to admit your wrongs and treat us fairly. If not, consider this goodbye. I hit send. It felt like shutting a massive weight while opening a new path. The next day, I called Jordan, my lawyer friend. His steady voice answered, "Rachel, you sure?" "Absolutely. Update my will. Remove Mom and Emily from contingencies. From now on, everything goes to Sophie." A brief silence, then, "I get it. I'll handle it. You're doing the right thing." Hanging up, I sat by the window, snow falling thickly. But inside, I felt the first rays of sunlight. The following days, Sophie and I prepared. We listed what to bring, researched Austin, schools, neighborhoods, climate. Each evening, we talked about decorating our new apartment, which clubs Sophie would join. Laughter filled our old apartment, a sound long absent. But peace didn't last. My phone buzzed with calls from Mom and Emily, texts flooding with pleas, excuses, accusations. I read them but didn't reply. Each time I looked at Sophie, she nodded as if saying, "Mom, don't waver." And I knew I had to stay firm. On New Year's Eve, I stood on the balcony, the cold biting my skin. Fireworks lit up Denver, the city where I was born and hurt. I whispered, "Thank you, goodbye." Turning back, I saw Sophie writing in her journal, her brown hair falling, her eyes bright with faith. I knew I'd chosen right. She'd have an 18th year free from rejections cycle. If you want to hear more stories like mine and connect with these struggles, check out my previous videos on this channel. Some mornings begin with a knock that you know will change your life if you open the door. That freezing Denver morning, urgent knocks rattled our weathered wooden door. Outside, wind howled, snow fell steadily. Peeking through the curtain, my heart stopped. My parents, Emily, her husband, and their young son, crowded the porch. Sophie approached, breathing fast. "Mom, they're here." I nodded. I wasn't surprised. After my email, I knew this was coming. But facing them, familiar faces once my refuge, now a tribunal, still tightened my chest. I turned the knob, opening the door a crack. Without invitation, they pushed in, bringing cold air and a storm of anger. Dad spoke first, his voice like a prosecutor's. "Rachel, what are you doing? Writing those vicious words to your family, slandering your parents, ruining our reputation? Do you know what the neighbors will think?" Mom, tears streaming, clutched my sleeve. "Honey, don't do this. Are you taking our granddaughter away? You know your dad has a heart condition. This is like killing him." I felt Sophie beside me, her hands trembling but her eyes resolute. For the first time, I saw not just a hurt child, but someone ready to stand up for herself. Emily crossed her arms, her gaze icy. "Rachel, this is just your childish outburst. You've been jealous of me for years, now using your daughter to get revenge. Stop pretending to be noble." I smiled, a cold smile with no room for tolerance. "Emily, if you truly believe I'd use my own child for revenge, you've never understood me, and maybe you never will." The room grew heavy, every breath laced with fire. Then something stunned me. Sophie stepped forward, her voice shaky but firm. "I deserve a place at the table." Silence fell. Those simple words thundered through the winter stillness. Dad blinked, Mom choked, Emily scoffed. But I knew Sophie had done what took me a lifetime, claimed her dignity. I placed a hand on her shoulder, adding, "She's right, she deserves it, so do I. Blood doesn't excuse cruelty. The family honor Dad speaks of means nothing to me if it's bought with these tears." Dad's face reddened, veins bulging. "You'll regret this, you can't cut off blood." I sighed, my voice eerily calm. "Then let today be the exception." Mom sobbed, eyes desperate. Emily shook her head, smirking. But my heart stopped trembling. A strange calm settled in, as if I'd reached the depths of pain and stepped out. I walked to the door, flinging it open. Winter's chill rushed in, wind howling. I looked at each of them. "If there's any shred of care left, please leave. We have nothing more to say." No one moved. Dad fumed, Mom pleaded, Emily attacked, but I stood firm. I reached back, grabbed Sophie's hand, squeezing tight. With absolute calm, I ushered them out. The door closed, the locks click, echoing like a final verdict. I leaned my forehead against the wood, exhaling deeply. Outside, footsteps faded into the wind and snow. Sophie hugged me from behind, whispering, "We did it, Mom." I turned, looking into her eyes. Gone was the abandoned child. Strength was blooming. I smiled, brushing damp hair from her forehead. "Yes, we did, but this is just the start. You ready?" Sophie nodded, pride flashing in her eyes. "They say cutting off family is harsh. But only when I walked away did I understand. Some ties aren't love, but chains." When we landed in Austin, Texas, a year after that tearful Christmas, I knew. This wasn't just a move, it was a rebirth. Our flight landed on a rainy morning. Austin's air was softer than Denver's, like a welcoming embrace. Sophie pressed her forehead to the window, eyes sparkling, and said softly, "Mom, maybe this is where we truly belong." My heart tightened. For 17 years, she'd questioned why she wasn't enough. Now, she spoke of a new place like finding home. I touched her hand, smiling. "Yes, honey, we'll start over here." Our new apartment sat on a gentle hill overlooking a green valley. Fresh paint scented the walls, polished wood floors reflected sunlight through wide windows. That first night, we sat in an empty living room, eating takeout pizza. Music played, Sophie danced impromptu, laughing in the open space. Watching her, I felt my heart's wounds begin to heal. My first day as principal of the creative writing program, I walked through bustling school halls, smelling fresh paper and hearing bells chime. I was nervous, but new colleagues, young, passionate teachers, greeted me. Welcome to Austin. Here, I wasn't the Miller family's failure, but a respected educator. Sophie, at her new school, soared like a bird freed from a cage. Within months, she joined the literature club, becoming a key writer for the school magazine. I remember her bringing home the issue with her story printed on the front page, hands trembling, eyes alight. Mom, they chose my story for the cover. I hugged her, feeling her racing heartbeat. That moment erased all the times her work was ignored by family. The joy didn't stop. At year's end, Sophie won a statewide writing award for her story, The Empty Chair, about a girl relegated to a folding chair at family dinners until she bravely walked away to find her own. As she read her name on stage, I sat in the audience, tears streaming. My daughter turned pain into strength, wounds into words. But the most moving moment wasn't the award. It was our first Thanksgiving in Austin. With no blood relatives, our apartment overflowed with laughter. New neighbors brought turkey, colleagues brought wine, and Sophie presented her apple pie, made from the old recipe. I worried, would anyone touch it? When the pie hit the table, a colleague exclaimed, God, that smells amazing! Who made this? Sophie shyly raised her hand. Everyone lined up, slices vanishing in minutes, some asking for the recipe. I looked at Sophie, her eyes sparkling, her smile radiant. Her pie, once rejected, ignored, was now the heart of the feast. That night, after guests left, Sophie sat in the kitchen, saying softly, Mom, for the first time, I felt my dish was truly wanted. No one made me feel like an outsider. I hugged her, my heart trembling with joy. Evenings in Austin, our apartment rang with laughter. We sat on the balcony, watching city lights flicker. Neighbors dropped by with cookies. Colleagues invited us to small parties. No empty seats, no judging looks, just open arms. I learned a simple truth. Family isn't a chain you must wear, but an embrace you choose, and we chose right. Some nights, Sophie gazed at the ceiling, asking softly, Mom, will they ever realize their mistake? I stroked her hair, replying, Maybe, but we don't need to wait. We have enough. She nodded, eyes shining, and fell into a peaceful sleep. Some doors you think are locked forever, but one day a knock comes. 3 years after leaving Denver, life in Austin was so peaceful I sometimes forgot old wounds. I was a respected principal, Sophie a thriving sophomore literature major. But that morning, opening the door, I saw a face I never expected. Emily, my sister. She stood there, gaunt, hair disheveled, eyes shadowed. Gone was her old arrogance. In her hands, a worn cloth bag seemed to hold her entire life. Rachel, her voice rasped, I have nowhere else to go. I stood silent, heart pounding. Memories flooded. Her mocking looks, her siding with our parents when they turned away, her smirk as Sophie was pushed from the table. But before me wasn't the powerful sister, but a broken person. I invited her in. Emily sat, hands twisting. I poured hot tea, setting it before her. She looked up, eyes full of shame. My husband left. My job collapsed. Debts piled up. I've lost everything. And I know, part of it's my selfishness, my jealousy. Rachel, I'm sorry. I was wrong. All these years, I just wanted to outshine you, to win Mom and Dad's eyes. But I ended up destroying my own life. Her words weighed on me. Part of me wanted to snap, that's what you get. But another part felt pity. I knew what it was to live in the shadow of expectations, of favoritism. Emily was bound too. She just chose to push others down instead of rising. I took a deep breath, keeping my voice steady. Emily, I forgive you. But hear this. Forgiveness doesn't mean reopening old wounds. I can't let you back into my life like nothing happened. Forgiveness is for my heart to be free of resentment, but boundaries stay firm. Emily bowed her head, tears falling. She nodded. I understand. Just don't hate me anymore. That's enough. Just then, Sophie walked out from studying. She froze, seeing her aunt, her eyes wary. But she listened as Emily and I spoke. After a quiet moment, Sophie stepped forward, looking into Emily's eyes. Aunt Emily, I was so angry at you. But now I see, anger only keeps me in the dark. If Mom forgives you, I do too. But I won't forget. I want to keep my self-respect. Her voice was calm, proud. I looked at her, heart swelling with pride. She'd grown. Understanding forgiveness isn't weakness, but strength with dignity. Emily nodded repeatedly, whispering, "Thank you, thank you." The talk ended quietly. Emily left, walking slowly into Austin's afternoon sun. I didn't know what would become of her, but I knew I'd done right. No more resentment, but no room for old wounds to reopen. That night, our apartment glowed with warm light. Neighbors brought cookies, colleagues dropped by with wine, laughter filled the room. Sophie brought out her apple pie, cherished this time. As we raised glasses, she turned to me, smiling. "Mom, we finally have a real family." I didn't answer, just squeezed her hand. A quiet peace rose in me. A long journey of tears led us here, where family isn't blood but love and respect. And maybe after this story, you'll see what took me half a lifetime to learn. Family isn't just blood, it's love and respect. Blood can bind, but only unconditional love nurtures. I endured, craved a place at my parents' table, but chose to leave and build a new one, where my daughter sits tall, heard, and free to be herself. I learned forgiveness isn't weakness, but a way to free the heart from chains. But it comes with boundaries. You can open your heart, but never let old wounds repeat. That's strength, dignity, a lesson I hope we all carry. If this story touched you, leave a comment and share your thoughts. Don't forget to follow my channel to join me in new journeys, where every story holds deep human value.